After writing so many books on different subjects like the body intelligence and the elemental world, you've written a lot around leprechauns and as I say, the elemental worlds. Why did you decide to write your memoir, Life of a Mystic?
I started writing this memoir 40 years ago. 40
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
And then, 30 years ago, I started writing it. And then I didn't touch it for 3 decades. I would pull up what I wrote once every 10 years. And I would look at it, and I wouldn't be able to move forward, and I wouldn't be able to edit it, nothing. And then 2 years ago, my brother was seriously ill, and he ended up dying.
Mm.
And I redid my will, and I was saying to you, Karen, before we went on, that I had this sense of ending my own life, ending even because my brother's was. And so I said, you know what? It's time to finish off this memoir 30 years later. Because I felt that I wanted to burn all my diaries, all my journals. I've kept journals ever since I was 13 or 14 years old. I have boxes of them. And I didn't want anybody to see them. I thought, if I'm going to die, I don't want anybody to open up these and start reading them because they are private. So in order to burn them all, I better just take the snippets of my life that I want to share and finish off this darn memoir. That's what I did. And then I was burning all my journals.
Wow.
I know.
Wow. I've never kept a journal. I've never been somebody that would keep a journal. And I often think maybe I should have. But what I've found, Tanis, I don't know if it's the same with you, when you tap into infinite intelligence, you can tap into the Akashic. You can tap into all memory, like hypnosis does that. We can go back in our life, in this life. We can go back into past lives. We can go anywhere, really. So if we don a specific frequency, we can retain that information. We can retrieve that information again. And that's how I feel about journals. But yeah, to not write it all down, but burning them, that's pretty wild, to burn all your journals.
Well, it depends also what you use a journal for. I agree with you that you can tap into all this stuff. And I did, in writing the memoir, I did tap into all these experiences again. However, when I write a journal, I do it to figure stuff out. So for me, and I'm a really quite private person, and there's a lot of what goes on in my mind that I don't share with anybody. And so my journals would be ways of providing myself with a question and then reflecting on the answer. And working out ways to go forward often. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Tanis and I were talking before about the new show we've got on the network called Elevate Consciousness, Waking the Quantum Self. And I was saying to someone that, like you, I have chats with my mob. I have thoughts that are just, I'm shown things that are just amazing. And unless I write it down or share it on a show, nobody's ever going to see what I see or hear what I hear. And so Elevate's an opportunity to share some of those things that go on in my head, because I'm so curious about everything. I'm always asking, how does that work? Tell me about that. Tell me about this. And they give me all this information. I really should write it all down in a book. Maybe I will when I get into my 70s. I'll write it all down in a book.
Maybe you will. But what I also found is things that I thought I was finished with, or, I'd come to a level of understanding on something, in when I would be looking at my journals from 30 years ago, I found that I had moved on.
Wow.
That I'd moved to a different level of understanding, what I would think is a more profound level of understanding. So I've often said that truth evolves. Truth evolves to the level of our vibration, our frequency.
Absolutely.
And so it was an opportunity to actually see that I had grown spiritually by how I was reflecting on things. That was interesting too.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a friend who keeps a journal, but she writes about everything. She writes about what she had for breakfast, when she caught the bus that day. She went to the bit. I don't know, like Diane says, she's kept journals since she was 10. She has over 100 journals to figure out her life as well. Ooh, I wonder if you're going to go. I wonder if you're going to write your memoir, Diane. Are you going to write? So I hear that you write the journals to sort of, see your spiritual evolution. Do you think it's important to write about the details of our lives as well, like what we ate for breakfast and stuff like that? Do you think that's important? No.
Well, I didn't write things like that. I often would write like a to-do list and a reflection, sort of like, should I get this publisher or this publisher? And then I would weigh in on it, or do I want to lead a tour to the sacred sites of Japan, or should I lead them to the American Southwest or Australia? And then I'd weigh in on it. So it was a way of moving things outside of myself.
Yeah. Sounds like it was a way of discussing it with yourself as well, like discussing
with
it
my higher self. It was a way of yeah, and I'm a double Libra, Karen, and people say that Libras are indecisive. Well, the real truth about Libras is that they see option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they examine all of them. And then finally they get so disgusted, they just jump and grab one of them. But it's not indecision. It's seeing all the options.
You're exactly right. I'm a Libra as well. When you say you're a double Libra, what, your sun and moon is in Libra? Like
my sun and rising sign are both in Libra.
Okay. That's exactly right. That's exactly what Libras do. Actually, I just get overwhelmed.
And, are you a Libra too?
Yeah. And then because I see all the options. That's exactly right. It's so right what you said. And when you see all the options, it gets overwhelming. It's like, which one is the best? And and then I just think, just pick one. Just pick one. Stop thinking about it.
Yes. Yes. Well, writing the journal helps me go through that.
Oh, yeah.
That's funny. Rather than boring a friend, right? And then you're telling a friend, oh, I'm thinking of, option A, B, C, D, E. And then they get involved and they say, oh, Tanis, I think you should do option C. And then, you think, oh, I've already moved on from C. Now I'm on D, and they're convinced now that you're going to do C. Have you found that too?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't actually want anybody's advice. I just want to bounce it off them.
Exactly. Well, I don't bounce it off them. I bounce it off my journal. So I keep my friends that way, and I don't drive them as crazy as I would be driving myself.
Shirley says here, double Libra, wow, awesome. 360-degree vision. Is that why you see the fairies? Maybe. So a life as a mystic, what's it been like for you to be a mystic and walk in the world where most people don't understand that you can see other dimensions and subtle energy and speak to other beings who exist in the same space? What's it been like for you, Tanis?
Well, I was born that way. So I was conscious before I was born. I remember being with the being who was helping me to make a decision about my mother and father and my life. I remember entering my mom's body. I remember hearing everything she was thinking about. I remember being born. I remember, so even after I was born, I was conscious, and and I, and I didn't know that other people lost consciousness. And I found, and I didn't know that other people couldn't hear what others were thinking. I didn't know that others didn't see these other worlds. And when I learned that, when I was still a child, maybe 6 or 7 years old, I said to one little friend, we were walking, there were two friends and me, and we're walking, and one of the girls liked me and the other one didn't. And she used to say nice things to me, and then she used to think bad things about me. And I said to her, why do you do that? Why do you think that and say that? And she was absolutely shocked. And then she really didn't like me. And now my other friend didn't like me. And so that night I went home to my parents, and at the dining room table, I thought, I'm going to try this out. So I thought one thing towards my parents and said something else. And to my horror, I realized they couldn't tell the difference.
Wow.
So even as a child, I developed my own ethical way of being to only listen to people as deeply as they want to be heard, and only see them as deeply as they want to be seen.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Only listen to people as deeply as they want to be heard, and only see people. Wow, that's so interesting. I think I came to that same conclusion, but I've never articulated it like that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so
The
interesting.
the exceptions to that, and I have made an exception several times in my life, and it's only with people who have the ability, very powerful people, either spiritually or in an ego sense, that have the ability to influence thousands of people. And then I will go deeper to check them out for their ethics. And in my memoir, I actually wrote about a time when I did this, when I was in my 30s, and I didn't know, I had never studied Buddhism, and I had been taken to see a Tibetan Buddhist monk. And I was upstairs, and he was talking to some other friends that had come with us. And I thought, I was sitting behind him, and I thought, oh, I'm just going to enter his mind just to check him out to see if he's ethical. and and he turned around, looked at me, and said, that's interesting, telepathically, and said, that's interesting. You can do that, but don't do it now. And later on that evening, I was at a meditation, and he entered me and started looking all the way around, all my ethics, everything. I followed him all the way around my bodies, my physical, emotional, and mental bodies. And I went up to him afterwards, and I said to him, did you really do that? And he said, yes. And he said, you're a teacher.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and we became friends.
How old were you at the time when that happened?
I was in my middle 30s.
Because if you read Tanis's bio, which I haven't read extensively to date, you spent a lot of time in the corporate world. Like, even though you knew you were a mystic, for a better word, a psychic, open, remembered, conscious, like, what could we call it? Like, you're conscious of your memory of who you are as telepathic, as an extension of source connected to a higher intelligence. You went into the corporate world and you did a lot of work in the corporate world. Like, you weren't always the spiritual teacher. So when he said you are a teacher, did you know that at the time?
No, he meant a spiritual teacher.
A spiritual teacher, that's what I mean.
I started teaching spiritual subjects when I was only 28. And I started leading people in past life regressions, taking them to see before their life why they chose their mother and father. And I actually became, this is all before Shirley MacLaine and before others were doing it. We're going back a long way, 4 decades. And I became very well known. I was on TV, radio, international newspapers. It was phenomenal what happened. I had no idea I was going to become well known for this. And at the same time, I was a corporate consultant since I was 28. And as soon as all of this happened to me in my early 30s, half of my corporate clients fired me, because there I was on national radio and TV regressing announcers to their previous lives. That was it was a real trauma, because I was innocent in some ways. I thought, what's the problem? I said, I don't talk about past lives in our corporate workshops. I said, the reviews are excellent. I've been working with you for 5 years, and why would you fire me? And they said, it's a credibility issue.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a real learning, Karen, to very painful learning, because, some of these people would become my friends. And it never dawned, because I always knew, because my parents had a hardware store, and which is very concrete, practical, down to earth. I knew from a very early age what I could talk about and what I couldn't. And I never told my parents about any of these things that I was doing. No.
Yeah. As I hear you, as I listen to you, I'm thinking, does that still happen in the corporate world? Like, does that still happen? How far have we come in 4 decades? I mean, if you're in the corporate world working in a mainstream job and you're talking about, past lives or talking to spirit, do they still see you as not being credible? I wonder how far we've come. Yeah. What does Mish say? Mish says that they didn't want you to see who they really were, maybe. Yeah. I remember saying this to a girlfriend who's since left her body. She used to tell little white lies to make, to embellish her stories.
And I also think that more and more people are going to higher frequencies, Karen, and that they're having breakthroughs into these levels of consciousness. And it is reassuring to them to know that other people are too, and that these other people who are not space cadets. They're actually well-functioning members of our society that can drive a car and pay their bills, and I think that this is reassuring for people now.
Well, it's interesting that you say these people are well-functioning members of our society. I think they're highly functional members of our society. They're more functional than your average person who hasn't remembered their own abilities to be able to perceive and tap into subtle energy, different frequencies of energy, thought energy, like telepathy, or different dimensions, have that communion with their spirit guides or their higher self and their soul. Yeah, they're more than normal. They're advanced beings. This is where we're all going, right? This is your way show up.
Yeah, this is definitely where we're all going.
Mm.
However,
However,
I would put in a little caveat here. And it is that while we're living in this third dimensional physical world, I do think that we have to be successful with the laws of the world, and that this is our foundation. And if we're not grounded, then we are not really able to manifest our full purpose and our full potential. So it's very important to be grounded in this physical world, and then from there use it as a launching pad to work with, the higher astral realms, the emotional and the higher mental realms, but that we are meant to be able to manifest down here. I'm thinking of I am a student of Paramahansa Yogananda,
yeah,
who wrote Autobiography of a Yogi, and he manifested an entire organization. He manifested all these books he wrote. He
he did.
manifested centers all over the States and in India. He was a wonderful manifester. And I think that that is the way it is meant to be. We should be able to manifest.
I see what you mean. You're a student of yoga. I'm a student of his guru, Sri Yukteswar. I saw a past
Yes.
life of me in his ashram as this skinny little Indian man. And I don't remember seeing a Yogananda. I don't know if it was before him or after him. Maybe he was in America and I was in India. I don't know. But yeah, Yukteswar was in a past life one of my teachers. Interesting.
Me too. Me too,
Really?
Karen. Yes. And
Maybe that's where we know each other from.
this is where we know each other from. And like you, I was a student of his in a long, long life ago in India when I
Yeah.
also was a man. And I remember that life. But like Sri Yukteswar, my gift is wisdom. And Yogananda's gift is love and devotion, which is my weak area.
Oh, really?
So Shri, well, yes, we're all
Maybe mine
lagging in
too.
something. So, so anyway, my whole life is to learn to be more loving. And I really feel I have achieved learning to be more loving. So in that way, I'm a success story. However, I still am not fully good at devotion. I'm not. Devotion. I'm not good at that. I'm not obedient. I'm not
I've never
obedient.
been. I've never
So,
been obedient. But is
well,
it,
there we
but do,
go.
do we have to be obedient? I don't know. I think in this age of, like I was telling you before this week on Elevate, we talked about the hypnosis of social conditioning. In this age of disclosure, where we're uncovering a lot of the lies that we've been living after, I think being disobedient in many ways allows us to see outside the hypnotic box that we've been in, like the conditioned thought forms, the programming. And so when you're disobedient, you can break the box of the programming and move outside of it in many ways. There's
Well, I would say that what the gift is being discerning. And
discerning.
if we are discerning, we can see if it's a false ego box that we're asked to go along with, or is it a spiritual law that we're asked to go along with? I
Mhm.
have no trouble at all being disobedient to any false ego centered law, but I do not want to be disobedient to higher spiritual laws.
Yeah. Mish has a question here. She wants to know, have you ever come across anyone you couldn't tune into? Interesting, Mish. Thanks for your question.
Not
That's for you.
really.
Not
Not
really.
really.
So why do you think that is? Do you think that people could put up their walls and their blocks, but when you have consciousness like you can just see straight through it?
Yeah, really. Well, like with you, if you were a student of Sri Yukteswar, who is the king of Yana yoga, so he is all wisdom and discernment. So yes, my discernment is very, very acute, and but yours must be too, Karen. Your discernment.
I think so. Sometimes I get a bit lost. But it's interesting. Years ago when I was young and I read the autobiography of a yogi, I remember hating Sri Yukteswar because he was so strict and he didn't portray that lovingness. And Yogananda was so loving and devoted towards him. And I'm like, why do you like this guy so much? He's so strict. That's before I remembered my past life.
Aha.
But yeah, it was interesting. I remember not liking him as the character in the book. I was like, he was so stern and strict and not emotional and loving at all. Yeah.
That's interesting because he is very kind to me, which I find very interesting because I know he has this reputation, and I know that Paramahansa Yogananda just talks about it, and I know that that's why Sri Yukteswar never had nearly as many people in his ashram as Paramahansa Yogananda.
Right.
However, he's always been gentle with me, and I find that interesting. I don't know why. I suppose it's because he knows that I'm giving things my best effort. I am giving it my best effort, even this devotion that is not as well developed.
But who do you think we're supposed to be devoted to? What's the devotion thing all about?
To the source of all.
Okay, to the higher self, the wisdom source.
To the higher
God, if you
divine Father, of which all enlightened masters are united with. So I have a feeling, not just a feeling, but through everything I have read from many sources, that unless I'm now reading the Bhagavad Gita, and from everything, that we may be so advanced in so many ways in our consciousness, but if we are unable to have this incredible devotion in our hearts, where we so fully trust and surrender our lives to spirit,
trust,
yes, that we will not attain the final goal, which is union with the divine.
Yeah. Oh, that's so important. Yes. I was talking with Tanis before about how long I've been doing this. I've been showcasing new old teachers for about 25 years, about 16 years on media. So I've seen a lot of people come and go, and a lot of students come and go. And there are many that tune into the wisdom or the knowledge, and they have that knowledge. It's a bit like that movie, A Beautiful Mind. You can be really intellectual, intelligent. You can tap into infinite intelligence. But if you don't have the devotion or the love that goes along with it, you can you can go stir crazy. You can go a bit crazy. I've seen people's minds sort of make them crazy because they've got so much wisdom and so much knowledge, but there isn't this, what's the word, grounding factor, thoughting factor, which is that devotion you're talking about, or that love?
Well, it's the way, it's really to not only think about what we have to change to be more spiritual, it is actually empowering our heart, which will then change all the cells of our body so that we become more devotional. So it goes beyond the mind and the mental processes to an actual yearning which comes from the heart. And this in me still lacks. I'm still lacking this. It doesn't mean that I don't have any of it, Karen, because I have the faith to say the path, which maybe in some lives I didn't. I would lose faith if I didn't see an outward manifestation of my progress. But now I'm not judging it that way. And maybe somehow Sri Yukteswar knows that I'm not judging it based on outward success of staying the path. It is a continual recommitment to developing a greater devotion.
Devotion and trust. Yeah, trust in the love of the universe. I think that's a global thing, having that trust, especially because I think one of the biggest thought forms on the planet is the survival thought form. Will I survive? Which is really wrapped up in money. I mean, when you look at a lot of countries, third world countries, there's a lot of poverty and striving and suffering in that respect. And even in the rich Western countries, everyone's striving for more money, more success, to survive, to feed their children, to pay the mortgage, that survival instinct. And when you have that faith and trust and devotion, there's no striving. I think Deepak said it takes you from surviving and striving to thriving. Yeah.
Well, and also not even being concerned with the ego need to survive, because the ego, I mean, our greatest fear ultimately is our fear of death. And and our ego, this personality, this particular life I'm leading is going to end. Yours is going to end. All of ours is going to end. And with devotion and total union with the divine, it's knowing that it's only this one little thing that ends. And so there is no death, really. It's really, and we haven't got that in our body, really. So we still have this fear of total union with the divine, where there is no me anymore. And I think it comes down to the fear of death, not just physical death, but the death of whatever we think of as me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who we think we are.
Who we think we are. And I'm still going through this. And this is why I'm going to withdraw from the world and meditate more, to giving up doing, where I keep on being lauded and applauded for for doing, and just work on my inner process of being, realizing this is a thing that has to happen right now. I think a lot of people realize that the world is dying as we know it. We talked about it before we came on, and it is dying. All the old systems, economic, environmental, organizational structures, everything is dying, it is collapsing, and there's nothing that happens out there that doesn't happen in here. So it's the collapse of the ego, the collective ego and the personal ego. And so we can either resist this collapse of the ego, or we can surrender to it, cooperate with it, and say, okay, I know I'm not doing great on this, but we're having a serious conversation here, Karen.
Yeah, journey to spirit. What she's saying here, it is dying and being reborn at the same time. And 100%. I have had a dear friend who is extremely right-brained and sees subtle energy, yet she is also very dyslexic and struggles with communication, abundance, and being grounded. Yeah, I've got a lot of friends like that. A lot of friends like that. But yeah, you've got to have both sides. Yeah, the dying of the old. Look, we talk about it on these shows, and it's discussed on many sort of spiritual conscious podcasts like this. But when you look at the news and you look out there in the mainstream world, it doesn't look like that's happening. But what is getting louder is the arguments are getting louder. Do you think that ego death, that collective ego death, there's like a fear that it's going to die, so it gets louder? Do you think that's
that's very perceptive. Yeah, because if we think of us individually, if we are attached to something and we think it's going to be ripped away from us, we become like a child yelling and screaming, no, give me back my toys.
No, give me back my toys.
Yeah, and so you're right, it is going to become louder. Yeah.